So let's go ahead and get started. Again, this webinar today is on, is your practice a ghost town? A lot of times people ask, what can I do to get more patients in the door? My name is Mike Garcia. I am the marketing manager here at iMatrix, and I'm going to go ahead and try to see what we can do to help you out in that aspect to try and get more patients through the door, as well as what you can do, whether it's through marketing or social media or anything of the sort to try to drive more attention and just try to drive more focus on your practice, especially for those that are actually in an area that is pretty saturated and it's a little harder to kind of differentiate yourself between you and your competitors. So of course, anyone that doesn't know who iMatrix is, we've been in the business for about 15 plus years. We've got a little over 10,000 clients. We should probably update that. I think we've hit about 11,000 so far, and we're continually growing. And of course, we are all Google AdWords certified. We actually had just hit our Google AdWords Premier partnership, which they have told us it's about 1 in 30 companies in the world that actually has that, based on how many clients of ours actually utilize AdWords through iMatrix. So we do know what we're talking about when it comes to PPC. Of course, all the other aspects of marketing as well. But again, if you do have questions in regards to those, definitely let us know. We can help you out there. So today, of course, we're going to go ahead and cover how, to make sure that your practice is not a ghost town, essentially. How to turn online reviews into sales assets. Why credible content is really crucial for winning new patients, and how targeted ads can transform your patient flow. So if PPC or pay-per-click ads are a little new to you, don't worry. It's common knowledge, actually, that a lot of PPC info is hard to kind of understand or hard to grasp, or it's just a lot of info to kind of ingest. It's a lot of work to kind of work towards that. Of course, it's not something that you get overnight. That's why we have a bunch of Google certified professionals here to try to help you out with that, as well as with your own knowledge on how to do PPC. That's kind of where all these webinars are going to come into effect. So first and foremost, we want to mention and kind of talk about a little bit on how you can turn your online reviews into sales assets. So authentic feedback loop. Now, something that's authentic is real. It's genuine, it's true, it's accurate, and generally people are attracted to things or people that are authentic. So while your marketing might kind of paint a picture of your office, your patient's firsthand accounts might offer kind of a different insight. You might kind of think, from a bias standpoint, oh, we provide great customer service. We provide great service overall. There shouldn't be any reason that anyone should have any problem with what we do. Well, sometimes the reviews might say otherwise. Now, sometimes the reviews might not necessarily all be true, which sometimes is the case. But a lot of times it gives you some insight on how your clients, how your potential, prospective clients might view you, as well as how your current clients view you currently, and kind of give you a way to sidestep a little bit to make sure that you correct things that you feel need to be corrected in that aspect. If there's a large disparity between how you are really promoting yourself and the actual patient experience, aka kind of like a lack of authenticity, you should expect to see unfavorable online feedback that could probably hurt your patient growth. Now, while you can't and really shouldn't falsity patient reviews, you want to make sure that you look at these reviews and you take them as constructive criticism. A lot of times you might look at reviews and you might not like what you see, you might not like what you read. A lot of times people do get bad reviews. And again, like I mentioned, for the most part, they might be bad and not true. But you want to really kind of dig in there and see what the problem is. A lot of times people look at reviews and they don't necessarily see how many good reviews and how many bad reviews are. Although that is a big case of it, they also want to see how you interact with those reviews. If you do get bad reviews, you want to make sure that you are at least responding to them in a positive light, and that you're at least showing some way of trying to fix the issue, some way of trying to fix the problem to where it's not just kind of left there marinating and rotting away on your review page. The worst thing you could do is if someone leaves you a review and you basically don't respond to it. Probably one of the even worse things than that is probably just to respond to it in a negative context, to kind of sling mud with the client or with the customer. That's absolutely the worst thing you could possibly ever do, and that will probably detrimentally hurt your reputation online as well as your business in general. A lot of people look at that as really bad, and they just don't even want to associate themselves with a business like that. So what you can do is, obviously, first and foremost, you want to make sure that you kind of put yourself out there as the friendly spot, the business that is going to be treating you more than just a number. I've gone to plenty of businesses where they are fairly similar, as far as the services and the way that they provide services to me. But the big thing that really sells me is kind of their personability, their way of kind of communicating to me as though I am a person and not necessarily just a client or a customer or a patient and not just a number. A lot of people love that, and I know that sounds very cliche, and I know it sounds like it's very common knowledge. Well, be more surprised than to hear the fact that a lot of people have that issue. A lot of businesses have that issue still. So make sure that when you are looking at feedback, you're seeing how they're providing that, you're treating them like a person, you're responding in such, and you're making sure that they feel that they're taken care of. And even if it's something where it's a review that you feel is not necessarily true, let's say it didn't happen that way at all whatsoever, you can communicate it in the sense of, that you would like to possibly take it offline, see them in your office, communicate to them in person. It just shows the fact that you're actually trying to put yourself forward, and that no matter if it's true or not, you're actually attempting to make it right. That's the biggest thing that a lot of people see. So you want to make sure that you keep in mind that authentic is not really also the same as good. So you can have poor service, but be authentic about it. If your bad location and outdated office means you can keep costs down and you pass the savings on to your patient, then be upfront about it. Your authenticity will spur your patient's authenticity, and which in turn really means that your online reviews are more likely to be authentic as well. People are more likely to be attracted to the authenticity of it, which are these real reviews, and less than likely to attract more similar-minded patients. A lot of times people don't want to look at these reviews and see something that looks falsified, something that looks like it's kind of fake, almost as if it's your front office leaving a review. That's absolutely the last thing you want to do. And a little side note, just so you know, review spots like Google, like Yelp, they actually can tell if you're leaving reviews at the same spot. Absolutely do not have a laptop or a computer or a iPad or any kind of tablet available for people to leave reviews at your office. It goes based off your IP. People can actually track that via Yelp and other things like that. They will see that it's all coming from the same location, and it basically is kind of like you're baiting these reviews so that it can show a positive light. That's where that authenticity comes from. That's not authentic. Even though it's them leaving a review, you're kind of coaxing them to leave that review. So it's not really authentic if you think of it that way. They might have something nice to say, but they need to do it on their own time, and you need to kind of instruct them on how to do it and where to do it and when to do it. If they want to do it from their phone, that's perfectly fine. Again, I would recommend it that, I'm pretty sure they're not, but I recommend they don't do it via off your Wi-Fi from their phone. I'm sure they don't have access to your Wi-Fi, but in general, you don't want to have it come from your location. It will not come off authentic, not only to prospective clients, but also to the fact that Yelp and Google will either flag it, or they'll remove it, or they'll just completely filter it out and you won't see anything. There have been moments that I've seen in Yelp where businesses have actually done that, and they've gotten multiple reviews. And one of the first problems with that was that they weren't really smart with it. They got all the reviews within 1 week. There was probably about 10 or 12 reviews in 1 week. Really kind of raises the flag just with that activity in itself. But not only that, the fact that it came from, I guess, a tablet or a laptop, whatever it may be, it came from the same IP address. Yelp actually went and they not only flagged all those, but they completely blacklisted that listing. So that listing wasn't even there anymore. Things like that can happen. So you want to make sure that when you're doing these things, it's not just for reviews. It's for potential ways of showing your business to prospective clients, so that you can kind of sell yourself as being that authentic, being that personable location, that business that can actually really help service people and make them feel kind of truly at home, like they're part of the family kind of thing. All that's not just kind of hearsay. A lot of that's true. I personally, like I mentioned, go to businesses where I feel that, and I like to go back and I like to refer people there. So what you need to do on top of that, all after that fact, is you want to seize that selling moment. So regardless if it's positive, negative, authentic, or from your mother, whoever it may be, every online review creates a selling moment, as like what we call it, and that's just kind of begging to be taken advantage of. A selling moment is an opportunity where you can interject yourself into the conversation, bring it back to what you do and how you do it better. So every review should merit a response, and every response should seize the selling moment. So just kind of an example, let's just say Jane. Okay, I'm going to use Jane, John, that kind of thing. Jane says, I had to wait 10 minutes longer than expected to see Dr. Anderson. The doctor's nice. I appreciated the time that they took to explain things to me. Her medical assistant or front desk, whatnot, seemed kind of distracted. They took forever to kind of help me out, which was a bummer, that kind of thing. And then, if you wanted to respond, as the doctor or even as the front desk or office manager, something very simple. My apologies for the wait. Patient education is, pretty important. It's really important, and sometimes things get kind of carried away with everything that's happening. Prior to opening the practice, if you were a doctor, prior to opening the practice, you were at a graduate program, a professor, explaining kind of comes as second nature. So it's one of those things where if you kind of just genuinely explain the situation and maybe even own up to the situation, a lot of people will actually look at that as, again, being authentic, being genuine, understand that maybe it was just a slight mishap, that we're not all robots, that we can't run the machine 100% all the time. There might be a little 2% hiccup here and there, and of course they want to see the fact that you are looking to correct the situation. So even though that seems like, you know what, I can't make any money off of that, what are you talking about, Mike? Technically you can. This is all for the long run. This is something where you want to show all that to your potential clients as well as that client that you're talking to, because that client's going to see that you do care, and they're going to eventually come back, and then they can possibly bring in residual by referring people, so on and so forth. So where do you start? Well, in order to really capitalize on online reviews and turn them into more new patients, to really kind of, again, put dollar signs in this whole thing, you really got to start by aligning your website and marketing content with your authentic self. So perhaps a website, rewrite, maybe a refresh on the website itself, or more original content will be needed. If you have any questions on how that works, definitely let us know. We can help point you in the right direction for that. But you really need to encourage more new reviews, make it easy for the patients to review online. You can email them surveys. You can embed links on your website to make gathering comments easy for both you and both for them. Again, this isn't you coaxing them to do something. You're just pointing them in the right direction. You're kind of corralling them towards the direction that you feel they need to get to. There's nothing wrong with that. And there's actually absolutely nothing wrong with that with the terms of service on Yelp or Facebook or Google or any of that stuff. Directing people to where they need to leave these reviews and reminding them and asking them of those things, 150%. Definitely do that. Continue to do that. Don't stop doing that. It's just, again, like I mentioned, if you literally almost take their hand and have them type it out while you're there, or have them tell you like you're a stenographer, that's going to be something that's not authentic. And of course, coming from the same location. Make sure they do it from their phone. Make sure they do it at home, wherever they may be, a coffee shop. You want to make sure that you just kind of point them in the direction of what they need to do and make it easy for them. Put it on your website. Make sure that you remind people on your Facebook. I went to go to a restaurant, just last week or whatnot, and it was actually the first time I heard the waitress, when she gave us our bill, she said, "Oh, if you had a great experience, feel free to leave us a review on Yelp." Obviously, I'm pretty biased. I do this for a living, so I'm like, wow, okay, that's great. But coming from an outside perspective, if I looked outside the box, I probably more than likely would be like, oh, wow, that's awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely leave a review. Now, of course, I left a review for them anyways, but I just thought it was very still authentic, but they pointed me in the right direction. I thought they did a great job of it. And it was very subtle, very quick. It wasn't pushy. It wasn't trying to sell me anything. It was really just kind of like, oh, by the way, yeah. And it was kind of a reminder to me, because even though I do this for a living, I even forgot about that, and they reminded me. So again, it's just tossing little nods, little nuggets of info out there. Also making it, again, visible on your website so that they have an easy way of doing it. If you want to do an image link or a text link somewhere or a separate page, definitely do that. And that's kind of where you can start getting all these online reviews to really kind of hopefully start building you some revenue where you can get new patients based off of those reviews. Because again, that's the first place people actually look for when they're looking for a new business, for a new service, for a business to help them out with their services. So next, again, why credible content is crucial for winning new patients. Of course, definitely something that comes up a lot. Sorry, here we go. So content creation is the single most effective SEO piece. It's one of those things where a lot of people don't quite understand, what they need to do for SEO. Search engine optimization is a big deal when it comes to websites and your ranking. Really, it's more than just ranking. It's a lot of times when people look at your website, they want to know, is this website going to have what I need? Is this company, is this business going to have what I need? Looking at a website that has old, stale content definitely does not help. You want to make sure that you are able to get found online, and the only way of doing that is with custom content. Now, if you aren't sure what to write, I used to be an account manager. I'm Google certified through search, I've done countless different campaigns for clients before in various different industries, from eye care professionals to chiropractic to veterinarians, so on and so forth. I've done a lot. And the first question that always comes up from these clients, which is very common, is what do I write about? I don't know what to put on my website. My mom, for instance, I'm going to throw her in here, she does dermatology, and basically she had a question about the same thing. I don't know what to put on there. It was a little different because it's my own mom, but I kind of threw the same info to her. What type of services do you have? And she went off on a rant about 20 different types of services. And I said, well, you know what? You got 20 pages right there. That's the very first thing you need to worry about is what do you do? What services do you provide? If you provide a handful of services, you already have a handful of pages. And all you really need to do is explain, first and foremost, what that service is, and then how you perform that service or what you do to perform that service, and then any other information on top of that that you need to add. I'll use as an example, you know, if someone got into a car accident or whatnot and someone wanted to write a page about car accidents or injuries or anything like that, they might put information about what happened during that incident. The second part might be how they can help you out with that incident. And then the third part might be if there's any other additional info that they need to throw in there, like, you know, you need insurance, to have it covered by insurance, you need this, you need that. If someone wants to get LASIK, let's just say, if someone wants to get, you know, any kind of eye exam and you have any kind of disclaimer or anything in there that you need to know or need to let them know ahead of time, it'll also save you time in the office. It'll save your front desk time. It'll save your whole staff time. And that way, if they do have questions, they can read about it on your website, and or if they still have questions on top of that, they kind of have an idea of what's going on because it's already there on your website. So getting found online is very, very important, and if you don't know where to start, custom content is absolutely the first place to go. Next is obviously communicating without selling. Now, that's kind of hard for some people. A lot of times people, when they try to communicate something, it just instantly comes out very salesy. I'm going to use me as an example, of course, because I'm no different than anyone else. If I was to mention to you, again, like we were talking about custom content, obviously I can mention to you, hey, you know, if you have any questions about custom content, definitely let us know. From my perspective, I'm pushing it more as a informational approach, educational approach. If you guys have questions, we are the experts. We know exactly what to do. We are thoroughly knowledgeable in your industry specifically, and we can help you out with that. But from other people's perspective, they might see it as me trying to push a service onto you. Now, that's not the case at all. We will take consultations. We will actually help you out if you have questions. So you guys can feel free to call us for that. But again, it just depends on how you communicate it. And so for you, if you're trying to communicate something, you want to make sure that you at least, again, don't come off very scripted. You want to still sound very natural. And, you know, certain keywords that you can toss in there, you want to make sure that you don't toss too many keywords into your content because that sounds very robotic. It sounds, again, scripted. That's one problem that a lot of people are noticing. If, let's say, I'm an optometrist in San Diego and I want to have a page pull up so that those keywords can pull my pages up on Google. Well, if I say, you know, Mike Garcia, let's start off the content with Mike Garcia, optometrist in San Diego, has been doing optometry in San Diego for 20 years. His optometry in San Diego, I mean, obviously it doesn't sound correct, it doesn't sound right, but that's the whole point. It sounds very scripted, robotic. It sounds like a computer saying it, right? That's one of those things that you want to make sure that when you're talking about it, you can drop in those keywords, but you just need to talk naturally about it. If you're going to talk to me as a person, tell me how you're going to explain it to me as a person, and just put that down in words. That's really simple. I know it sounds a lot more simpler than it is, but really it is. It's one of those things where you can easily just kind of communicate it to someone. If you have problems with writing it down, maybe communicate it to someone, one of your staff members. They can write it down just like a stenographer, and they can kind of jot down notes about what you explained, and then you can take that as a reference for creating the content. And that way you don't sound like what you're communicating is trying to sell someone on something every time they go to a separate page. So you want to make sure that you communicate that in a more natural, less scripted way. And of course, that last part of it is putting it into action. So what you want to make sure that you do is once you have everything together, you want to make sure that you have everything communicated together. And once you have that put together in a plan, you can definitely put it all over on your website. You make sure the pages are created, and you can start pumping those pages to social media. You can start getting them indexed by all the search engines. If you want to post them on other platforms, if you have blogs and you have links to your website, the best thing you can do is you can promote your website via social media. Let's say you have a new page of content. So if I have a new website, right, and I really want to get myself out there, let's say I have a website that's already been out there, and I have a new service or some new technique or new piece of equipment, whatever it may be. If you have a special offer, okay, it doesn't really matter what it is. Let's say you create a new page of content for it, and you really want to kind of get attention towards that content. You need to take that URL, the link at the top, go ahead and post it in to social media as a post, whether it's Twitter, Google+, or Facebook, and honestly, I would probably say you should prefer all three. And in that way, you can promote it not only to yourself, or sorry, not to yourself, to your fans of your page, right, on Facebook, and any of your followers. But anyone that follows them, of course, will be able to see it as well if they interact with your post. If they like it, they comment on it, they share it, of course. And that's actually potential clients that you don't even know about. Potential clients that don't even follow you, you have the ability to put it in front of their face. So that's the beauty of social media, is you can do all that for free via your own followers doing the work for you. See what I mean? It's very easy, and it's really not hard to do. And especially with Google+, when you post it on there, it actually helps Google index your page a lot faster because obviously it's being put on their platform. Kind of a little tip there if you want to know how to get your page indexed a little bit faster. And by indexed, it basically just means being crawled by the search engine so that it gets kind of indexed, as they say, in their library of search engine results. Same thing with like a YouTube video. You know, let's say you post the YouTube video. It's one of those things where you want to make sure that you don't just post it and hope someone sees it. You post it, then you go and post the link to Facebook, you post the link to Twitter, you get it out there. You know, it's one of those things that you got to do the same thing with your content. And of course, making sure your content is thoroughly thought out, again, with all these other steps, is key to making sure that it, one, communicates it without selling, two, is authentic and it's credible, and three, you want to make sure that it does its job by having you get found online. So make sure that you follow those steps for content, because again, content's probably the biggest piece of this whole webinar, this whole presentation. Getting yourself out there, understanding the fact that people can't find you if you aren't able to be found is a very crucial part of it. Now, how targeted advertising can transform your patient flow, of course, you know, accelerates your efforts. Now, targeted advertising is one of those things where with PPC, a lot of people tend to not really understand how PPC works, pay-per-click ads. While your content, your organic strategy will get your website to the top of Google search pages eventually. Of course, it takes a little bit of time. Pay-per-click advertising, or again, like I mentioned, PPC, is kind of one of those fast-acting marketing tools that really puts you at the forefront of those online users searching for your services. So imagine this. Imagine SEO, search engine optimization, is kind of like your credit score, okay? It can go up, it can go down. It can more than likely go down a lot faster than it goes up. But you got to just maintain it. And a lot of times it's harder to get it up via, you know, search engine rankings than it is to see it drop in search engine rankings. So one thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you continue to do your SEO efforts via, you know, social media, custom content, things like that, different links that you have on your website. But you, again, if you need to kind of have that extra oomph, or maybe it's just taking too long, you know, it's been about a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, 2 months, however long it may be, and you're still just kind of hanging out on page 3, page 2, maybe you're on page 1, but you're at the bottom of page 1. It's one of those things where you really want to kind of, you know what, if I could just pay some money to get myself up there, I'll do it. Well, that's what PPC is for. It's like an auction. It's just like eBay. It's one of those things where you pay to play, and essentially other people are also paying to play to be at the top of the rankings up there. So the PPC rankings, the search engine rankings, are actually they're kind of yellow. I think they also say ad on it. It's going to be right above your search, your organic results is what we call it, which is all the SEO ranking. And you can essentially pay to try to be up on top. Now, again, like I mentioned, it will be against other competitors that are probably trying to pay for the same keywords. So keep that in mind. And be very careful when it comes to PPC, because you can actually spend a lot of money and not get a lot of results if you aren't doing it correctly. So again, let us know. We can help you out. But as far as that goes, it also gives you the ability to target specific areas. Let's say you're in an area that's very industrial. You've got no potential clients or patients anywhere. There's no way you're going to be able to find anyone in your radius. you can actually select specific areas of your city. Let's say you're in San Francisco, right? And you're in an area that's just completely covered by water, let's just say. Let's say you don't have any residential areas. It's all industrial. There's no way to get anyone. How am I ever supposed to get any audience that way? Well, PPC allows you to do that by taking out other areas that you don't want to target and adding in areas that you do want to target. And it's awesome. And it's got a map. You can select it by zip code. You can actually draw out a map if you want a specific area that you want to cover. It allows you to reach a lot wider of an audience than just normal SEO and other efforts as well. So PPC does that for you through targeted advertising. And it's one of those things where, again, if you don't want to target specific keywords, if you don't want to target specific areas, you have almost full control when it comes to PPC. So make sure that you do it correctly because, again, on this last point, it is not DIY friendly. So it's one of those where it does take a little bit of effort. Again, you can work on it in yourself. If you don't have a lot of time to do it, I do recommend trying to get someone to help you to do that because it does take a lot of time. Again, think of eBay. If you want to get an item, let's just say, and you bid on an item, it's not set it and forget it, okay? It's not Craigslist. It's not one of those things where, oh, I want to get this item, and yeah, I put a bid on it, and it's pretty sure going to be mine. I'm just going to wait for the timer to run out. That's not how it works. You bid on it, someone else is going to bid on it, and then someone else bids on it on top of that, and the next thing you know, you've been outbid probably 4 or 5 times, and by the time the timer runs out, you aren't even in the running to get that item. Same thing happens with PPC. You need to check on that daily. You need to check on that throughout the day, possibly, depending on how concentrated your area is, how saturated your area is with competitors. You want to make sure that you are in the spot that you want to be in, that you feel comfortable being in, as well as wherever your budget may be. So that's one of those things that does take a little bit more time management, and if you don't have the time to do that, then you need to make sure and try to find someone that can actually help you out with that. So what you can do is obviously you can try to look up some different things on Google. There's different Google support links that you can do. Of course, you can give us a call. We are Google Premier partners. There's a lot of different things you can do. We have some ebooks that if you want to look into as well, infographics. We have a lot of info that you can actually read as far as educational material, but definitely think about it before you start looking into the PPC side of things because it's one of those that can definitely hurt your budget if you are really tight on your budget and you want to maximize how much you're spending. You can kind of throw a lot of money out there in the wind if you don't do it correctly. So again, let us know on that part, but transforming your whole patient flow can come from targeted advertising. If you are not getting the correct patient, if you feel like you are not getting the right patient, maybe you're getting a bunch of patients that just kind of want to come in and get just really the basic services, nothing that's really large on revenue building for you, maybe you might think of targeting other areas. Sorry, like I mentioned, it's one of those things where I've had clients from different areas of Las Vegas, San Francisco, New York, and excuse me, especially Las Vegas. I know there's a couple clients I've had in the past where they didn't live in Las Vegas. Their practice wasn't in Las Vegas. It was in, let's say, Henderson or somewhere that's kind of on the outskirts of Las Vegas, but they really wanted to target Las Vegas. That's where everything was. You can do that. PPC is great for that. And you can actually save a lot of money by doing different targeted ads. You can do different ad extensions by adding phone numbers to your ads. You can add map extensions by adding a map so they can find directions. Different sitemap extensions. There's a lot of different things. There's a lot of stuff happening with PPC that if you aren't too ready to do PPC, make sure that your SEO side is complete and it's ironed out before you actually jump into PPC. I don't recommend doing the opposite. Don't start PPC without having your website, having your content available, just because you want to get started right away and you want to get on the first page. That's not how it works. You need to have your website established. You need to have your custom content. Once you have your custom content, you have everything good to go on your website. Even if you're not ranking yet on your website, you need to have, almost think of your website as a home. You need to have a home to live in before you can do other things. You know what I mean? So it's definitely something that you need to take first hand with SEO, then jump into PPC. Think of PPC as the 2.0 stretch. So I'll leave this time open. Again, this was a short webinar. If you have any questions, feel free to go ahead and type them through. Again, if you have anything further, you maybe want to go ahead and look at, how your website's performing. you have questions about PPC, maybe you're doing PPC on your own, maybe you don't quite understand what to do with it, go ahead and give us a call, 877-739-5442. Again, my name is Mike Garcia. I am the marketing manager here. This was a small, bite-sized version of some of our webinars. We do have longer webinars. If you are interested in some more info, feel free to go to imatrix.com. We do have a bunch of resources there via ebooks, white papers, infographics. Feel free to go ahead and download them. They are all absolutely free. And again, we will have this recording on our YouTube channel, and we will make sure to send out this slide deck to you guys if you want to go ahead and kind of use it as a reference, as well as this recording as a reference for getting things started on your website. So go ahead and wait for a couple questions if you guys have them, and thanks again for attending.